Down Vishnupad Brahmahamsa Parvatacharya, still there from His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopika Vinashama Radhikam Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Gangamai Ki, Yamuna Mai Ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki, Gantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nisa Gaur Premanandi. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru Auranga, glory to Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Sojam Mudirayat Yastapareshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Alright, Hare Krishna, guys. You guys will come back from Sedona. Jai. How was everything? Oh, well, Jai. You got people to chant the holy name? 1 million yards, alright. Yes, especially during this time, it's very, very powerful. This Kartik time. So anyway, so today we're going to be doing Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 70, chapter titled Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. And if I am right, Lord, this is actually the end of Rudra Gita, the last instruction by Lord Shiva to the sons of Prachini Bari. So, very interesting that his last instruction is about chanting the glories of the holy name of the Lord. But anyway, all right, let's go for it. Tameva manamatmastam sarabhuteshva avasitam pujaya dvam krinantasya jayantasya shakrid darim tameva manamatmastam sarvabhuteshva avasitam pujaya dvam krinantasya jayantasya shakridarim tameva manamatmastam sarvabhutesha vasitam pujaya dvam grinantascha dayantascha shakridarim. Alright, please chant.
Tam evatmanam atmastam sarvabhuteshvavastitam pujayatvam prinantascha dhyanantascha shakridarim.
Tamevatmanam atmastam.
Tamevatmanam atmastam.
Sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Ujjayanvam priyantascha.
Ujjayanvam prinatascha.
Priyantascha sakridarim.
Yanantascha shakridarim.
Tamevatmanam atmastam.
Tamevatmanam atmastam.
Sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Pujaya tvam grinantascha.
Ujjayanvam prinatascha.
Yayantaschas akridarim.
Yanantascha shakridarim.
Tamevatmanam atmastam.
Tamevatmanam atmastam.
Sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Ujjayatvam prinatascha.
Ujjayantascha.
Yayantascha shakridarim.
Yanantascha shakridarim.
Word for word, tam unto him.
Unto him.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
Certainly.
Atmanam,
Atmanam.
the supreme soul.
The Supreme Soul.
Atmastam,
Atmastam.
within your hearts.
Within your hearts.
Sarva,
Sarva.
all.
All.
Uteshu,
Uteshu.
in every living being.
In every living being.
Avastitam,
Avastitam.
situated.
Situated.
Pujayadvam,
Ujjayanvam.
just worship him.
Just worship him.
Grinantaha, sorry, oh yeah. Grinantaha cha, always chanting. Dhyanataha, oh God, sorry, I was thinking it was like two separate words. Dhyanataha cha, always meditating upon.
Always meditating on.
Sakrit, continuously. Harim, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Supreme Personality of God.
All right, translation. Therefore, O sons of the King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is situated in everyone's heart. He is also within your hearts. Therefore, chant the glories of the Lord and always meditate upon him continuously. So please repeat. Therefore, O sons of the King,
O sons of the King.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
The Supreme Personality of God.
Hari,
Hari.
is situated in everyone's heart.
Is situated in everyone's heart.
He is also within your hearts.
He is also within your heart.
Therefore,
Therefore,
chant the glories of the Lord
chant the glories of the Lord.
and always meditate upon him continuously.
And always meditate upon him.
Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The word asakrit is significant, for it means not just for a few minutes, but continuously. That is the instruction given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtika, Kirtaniya Sarahari. The holy name of the Lord should be chanted 24 hours daily. Therefore, in this Krishna consciousness movement, we request the devotees to chant at least 16 rounds on their beads daily. Actually, one has to chant 24 hours daily, just like Haridas Thakur, who was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 300,000 times daily. Indeed, he had no other business. Some of the Goswamis, like Raghunath Das Goswami, were also chanting very rigidly and offering obeisances very rigidly. As stated in Srinivasacharya's prayer to the six Goswamis, Sad Goswami Astika, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi Kalas Fasani Krito. The word Sankhya Purvaka means maintaining a numerical strength. Not only was Raghunath Das Goswami chanting the holy name of the Lord, but he was offering obeisances in the same prolific numbers. Because the princes were ready to enter into some severe austerity in order to worship the Lord, Lord Shiva advised them to constantly chant of and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is significant that Lord Shiva personally offered his prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as he was taught by his father, Lord Brahma. Similarly, he was also preaching to the princes according to the Parampara system. One not only should practice the instructions received from the spiritual master, but should also distribute this knowledge to one's disciples. Let's see this. Okay. The words Atmanam Atmastam Sarvabhuteshu Avastitam are also significant. The personality of Godhead is the origin of all living entities. Because the living entities are part and parcels of the Lord, he is the father of all of them. One can search out the Supreme Lord very easily within one's heart, for he is situated in every living entity's heart. In this verse, the process of worshiping the Lord is considered to be very easy and complete, for anyone can sit down anywhere and in any condition of life simply chant the holy names of the Lord. By chanting and hearing, one automatically engages in meditation. Om Ganitrinam Dishagananjana Shlakaya Chakshramritamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Jaitangamano Visham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rapagiramayam Didati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Parikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganaptam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhikanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustite Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrubhishya Kripa Sindhivevicha Patitanam Bhavnevyo Vaishnavevyo Naman Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giradhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktaprinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, and this verse and also this purport, this verse from the Bhagavad Gita is alluded to. Sarvasichaham Rinisanavishtha Matasmitra Jnanam Apohanancha, that Krishna himself is situated within the heart of every living entity, and from him comes all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is explained. Oh, why did it do that? Okay, hold on one second, guys. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay, down here. Okay, so there's a verse about Krishna becoming about Krishna being the Chaitya Guru, a very sweet verse. And I had it pulled up. And because I pulled it up on my phone and not on the database internet, when I reopened this app, it was gone. So, hold on one second. Okay. Maharaj, the conditions. Okay. Okay, so anyway, basically, what the verse says, and I will paraphrase. Oh, here it is, found it, yeah. Okay, Krishna is situated in everyone's heart as the Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. When he is kind to some fortunate conditioned soul, he personally gives him lessons so he can progress in devotional service, instructing the person as the supersoul within and the spiritual master without. So, as we remember from the very beginning of this chapter, these princes, the sons of King Prachinibari, they were going to perform austerities so that later they could also become good kings, good grihastas, and things like this. So their father sent them off to do these austerities, worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, but what happens here is that on their way, they get interrupted by Lord Shiva. So Prabhupada says here, because the princes were ready to enter into some austerity in order to worship the Lord, Lord Shiva advised them to constantly chant and meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we see this in the Bhagavatam. This happens a few times. That when someone is going to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or they have some inclination towards Krishna, Krishna, as Chaitya Guru, makes some arrangement that they come in contact with a devotee of the Lord and to help them make further advancement. Because Bhagavatam's purpose is to kick out all sorts of cheating religion. It's to give you, the goal of religion itself. So during the beginning of the Bhagavatam, when the sages were at Naimisharanya, and Kali Yuga was about to begin, or it was beginning, not about to begin, because Krishna had just left the planet, and these sages are doing austerity, they're doing a yajna for the benefit of everyone. What did they do after this yajna? They light the fire. They sit and they hear from Sutta Goswami, and they tell Sutta Goswami, you are very learned. You have studied all the Vedas. You have studied all the Puranas. So can you please tell us what is the goal of all of this? Because the Vedas are so vast. And, if one wanted to read them, it would probably take most of your life, if not all of your life. And even if you had the ability to read them, which we really don't in this day and age, because nobody can really properly speak, read, understand Sanskrit, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, you probably wouldn't get to the goal. So they're asking Sutta Goswami, seeing that in Kali Yuga, people's lives are very short, they're lazy, they're misguided. You read that verse and you think of all of us, right? Everybody's we've all been lazy, we've all been misguided by somebody. Our lives are very short, they could end at any moment. What is the goal of all this? And so Sutta Goswami, one of his first instructions is that the supreme occupation for all humanity, the supreme dharma, the way to live, is in such a way that one can attain to loving devotional service unto Krishna. And then he glorifies chanting and hearing the names and pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So from the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's setting what is the goal of human life? What is the purpose of all the Vedas? Because in the Vedas you have, you can do austerity to get this, you can do austerity to get that. And one might get confused. And they might think, okay, well, I need to do austerities to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that I can do my material dharma properly. And my material dharma is the goal of life. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is coming at us from the point of not just doing your material dharma well, but transcending all that. And of course, we all have some material dharma we have to do in this material world. But really, whatever material dharma we have is ultimately temporary. Like the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks about how the living entity takes a certain body, he gets a certain type of eye, he gets a certain type of ears, a certain type of nose, and whatever consciousness we're cultivating, that consciousness goes with us and is preparing the next body. So one day you're a king. The next day you can be a Sudra. The next day you can be a Kshatriya. So why there is material dharma in this world, and that should be done. But Srimad Bhagavatam is here to remind human society, what is the ultimate dharma? Because your dharma, as whatever you are in this world, that's going to change along with the body. But we have an ultimate dharma, and that's to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Shiva, seeing that these princes are a little bit inclined, he's stopping them, and he's chanting this song of Lord Shiva, and he's ending with, always chant the glories of the Lord, always meditate upon him constantly, because they're ready, they're ripe. Prabhupada said, we want ripe mangoes. So Krishna, he's always paying attention, because he's always been in the heart of every living entity. He's really the best friend of every living entity. In this material world, we claim, oh, this person is my best friend, or that person is my best friend. Nobody hangs out with us life after life. In fact, we're quite lucky if they hang out with us to the end of our life. All relationships, really, in this material world, they're temporary. We're borrowing these people. This person is my friend now. This person is my spouse now. This person is my child now. But they're all kind of on loan. They don't stay there forever in that rasa. But Krishna is the one that stays in the heart of every living entity, no matter what's going on. So when Krishna sees, okay, this jiva is a little bit inclined to actually get to know me, to actually worship me, by his mercy, he sends some kind soul to give them the philosophy, the ultimate goal of life. So this is what Sutta Goswami was doing with the sages of Namisaranya, and this is what Lord Shiva is doing with the kings, with the princes of Prachini Bari. This is also, we see here, this is what Narada Muni did with Dhruva Maharaj earlier in the 4th canto. Dhruva Maharaj, he went and he was seeking out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and even though he was desiring something material, still Krishna was noticing, okay, this person is seeking me out. So therefore Narada Muni came and stopped him on his path. And what did he give him? What mantra did he give him? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Dhruva Maharaj got this mantra of the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by chanting this mantra, naturally, he became purified of, all his material desires, and he got to see Krishna face to face. And then also, if we take Narada Muni's story, we see again how Krishna ultimately brought him back. Because as we know from, I believe it's narrated in the 7th canto, that Narada Muni, he was originally up in the celestial realms, very handsome guy, hanging out with all the ladies, very good kirtaniya guy. And he was started doing kirtan, glorification of the demigods. And he got cursed. And he's also kind of showing off. He got cursed out. You go down and you take birth. It's the son of a Sudra. It was a bit offensive because Prabhupada narrates in that purport that kirtan is only meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also the mood in which he was doing it in was improper. So he had to come down to the material world and take this birth as the son of a maidservant. But what happened? Krishna brought him back because he got the association of some sages, some sadhus, and he took their remnants. And by doing this, by hearing from them, he gradually, he got purified, and then ultimately he went back. So Krishna is always looking for a chance to bring the living entity back to him. So Prabhupada, often he would say in these lectures, Krishna wants to give the love of God. Krishna wants to give it to you, but you don't want to take it. Krishna wants to take you back to Godhead, but we don't want to go. So that's the problem. So Krishna is constantly trying to interrupt us, say, hey, this is the actual goal of life. This is what you should be doing. So the princes of Prachini Bari, they're very pious, good sons. And we're going to see later that they're going to do these austerities, and they're going to take a wife. But they're going to have this chanting of the holy name with them throughout their lives. And so Bhagavatam, over and over again, it makes this point directly and indirectly that really, whatever dharma you have, one should continuously hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Because even while we're doing our material dharma, this helps us with our ultimate dharma. Because also in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that one's dharma in this world, the material dharma, is useless if it doesn't provoke attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can do good material dharma in this world. You can do it perfectly. You go to the heavenly planets and you can enjoy, but then you have to come back down and do another dharma. So Bhagavatam is saying, hey, why waste your time in just trying to perfect your life in this way? Cultivate your ultimate dharma, because that's actually what's going to give you ultimate satisfaction. So we see this again also in the fourth canto. The fourth canto is really, it's full of stories of why one should take to devotional service and cultivate the highest dharma. We see it in the story with Daksha, and also we see it in the story with Puranjana. So Kirtaneshwar in Krishna Cove the other day, he read these super sweet verses in this story of Puranjana. That's also in the fourth canto. And they're verses that I always really love because they show just how sweet, just how kind Krishna is, and how he's accompanying the living entity as super soul within the heart, as shown in this verse, life after life. So, as we know, this story of Puranjana, it's narrated by Narada Muni. And we know from the life of Puranjana that he was also a king, and he also very, very much got caught up in material life and enjoying his wife, enjoying his family, and all of these things. And at the end of his life, death came. And he was bewildered. And then what happened to Puranjana? He became a woman in his next life. Because what do we know from 8th canto of Bhagavad Gita? That whatever consciousness you're cultivating in this life, that's preparing your body for the next life. So King Puranjana became Vaidarbhi in his next life and married Maladwaja. And so they got married. And then one day, she's doing her duties as a very faithful wife. And then, they depart for the forest. And he's doing his austerities. And one day, he leaves his body. And Vaidarbhi, she's kind of lamenting, oh, what happened to my husband, things like this. And then Krishna comes to her in the form of a Brahmana. And he's inquiring like this: who are you? Whose wife and daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. My dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted an accepted position as enjoyer of this material world. And this verse is similar to the prayers of Pingala in the 11th canto. When Pingala, she's this prostitute, and she's going out and doing her occupation, and no man is coming. And this is her livelihood, and she's not getting any money. And naturally, she gets kind of frustrated. But from this, detachment arises in her heart by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in one of her prayers, it's called the Song of Pingala, she says, oh, what a fool I am that I have actually neglected the company and given up the one who is most dear to me. And I've taken this profession as a prostitute. And she uses this word, the most intimate friend, situated in my heart. So it's very similar to this verse. She also admits, okay, I've neglected the Krishna within my own heart. And so Krishna is saying this to Vaidarbhi. And then he says, My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is like the Manasa Lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home. My dear friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic. Not seeing me, you have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman. So there's a purport here. Where Prabhupada says, and I'm trying to find here. The original home of the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, both the Lord and the living entities live together very peacefully. Since the living entity remains engaged in the service of the Lord, they both share a blissful life in the spiritual world. How whenever the living entity wants to enjoy himself, he falls down into the material world. Even while in that position, the Lord remains with him as the supersoul, his intimate friend. Because of his forgetfulness, the living entity does not know that the Supreme Lord is accompanying him as the supersoul. And in this way, the living entity remains conditioned in each and every millennium. Although the Lord follows him as a friend, the living entity, because of his forgetful material existence, does not recognize him. So, the Lord, situated within the hearts of the princess here, have sent Lord Shiva to enlighten them about the glories of chanting the holy name. And in the same way, Krishna is doing that for all of us. At some point, we had some inclination, and Krishna sent some devotee to interrupt what we were doing. We were going along our path. Maybe we weren't going to do austerities like the princess here. Maybe we were on the path of like Dhruva Maharaj. I want my material thing. I want God to give it to me. Or some other path. And Krishna sent some devotee to interrupt and say, hey, this is really what you're looking for. Somebody came, they gave us a book, we heard the Maha Mantra, and it changed our life forever. I know one devotee who became a devotee because he was walking along his path. One day he looked in the trash can. He found a chant Be Happy. Not a chant Be Happy, sorry. It was a pamphlet on chanting Hare Krishna. You guys see this pamphlet? People tend to kind of give this out when people don't have money for books. Very popular. And, because people don't tend to value always what they get for free. They'll throw it in the trash. So he found one in the trash. He picked it up, he read it, he became a devotee. So Krishna, being the original spiritual master, is trying to help the living entity. So he sends Guru. And he never gives up on the living entity. Often it's asked, why was it that Balaram was so merciful to Duryodhana? He was his guru, especially in fighting. And he spent a lot of time with Duryodhana. He even tried to arrange Subhadra's marriage to Duryodhana. And we all get that, very sweet pastime of how Arjuna came and interrupted the scene. So, in a lot of classes, people ask, Duryodhana was such a horrible person. Really, really bad for those who have read Mahabharata. He tried to kill the Pandavas, who are devotees of Krishna in so many ways. But yet, he got Balaram's mercy. So I was hearing in Indra Maharaj's Kartik Prikrama, I think he had Sri Prahlad talk about this, that actually we should see this as good for us. Because we've all come to this material world very envious of Krishna. But Guru actually doesn't give up on the disciple. They're always thinking, how can I somehow help this person? So Balaram, he was trying to help Duryodhana. And we even see at the end when Duryodhana is fighting with Bhima, Balaram, he comes to both of them. He says, Duryodhana, you are more, I believe it was, Duryodhana was more skilled, Bhima was stronger, something like that. Basically, so none of you are going to get the upper hand on each other. Like he was trying to help, Duryodhana, trying to help both of them. And he didn't want to listen, so then ultimately Balaram left. So, but this is Guru. The Shastra is here. Guru speaks the Shastra, but Guru also is trying to help the disciples. See where the disciples at. Okay, how can I elevate this person? How can I help them make advancement? We also see this again, with Jagai and Madai. Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, the first time they met Jagai and Madai, if you read the whole entire story, Jagai and Madai, they had to run from them. And then the second time, Lord Nityananda is, begging them, okay, just chant the holy name. And actually, if you read in the Nityananda Charitamrita, when Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they were going around preaching, they were begging people, just chant the holy name, just chant the holy name. But even in that time, their preaching always wasn't so easy because people would still neglect them during that time. It said only people who were a little bit pious would follow their instructions. So Nityananda is Balaram himself. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still, even he was going door to door trying to get people to chant the holy name, and not everybody wanted to take to it. So Krishna's making the endeavor, but, it's up to the living entity to do their part. So we see again, when Lord Nityananda went back to Jagai and Madai, he didn't give up on them. And ultimately, he delivered them. So, and what does this also show? Is that we have to do, Krishna is willing to give it, but we have to do our part. So Prabhupada, another point he's making here is that the holy name of the Lord should be chanted 24 hours daily. So most of us can't just sit and chant 24 hours daily. If we had that program, the restaurant would never run. Could you imagine that? Okay, we're all gonna sit down and just chant. No prasadam distribution. People come in. Oh, hey, Hare Krishna, sit down, chant with us. There was this one disciple, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He chanted all the time, and he didn't go out preaching. And so some of the other devotees got a little bit, why does he get to just sit there and chant? And, look, we have to do all this work. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, okay, go chant with him. And they couldn't sit and do it for the amount of time that he could. So, but we can take the essence of this, and what does this mean? It means that Krishna consciousness is not just a one day a week activity. And especially during this month of Kartik, you'll see many more people come to the temple. They'll want to offer the ghee lamp. They'll want to do some austerities. And even sometimes with devotees, you'll see, okay, I'm going to chant 64 rounds every day for a month. And then, they would go back to chanting 16 after Kartik is over. People are always like, okay, let me do some intense spiritual activity for this month. And then once the month is over, they go back to doing the same thing again. Which is why often it's, it's recommended by certain people that if you're going to take a vrat during Kartik, take a vrat that helps you give up a bad habit. That's affecting you from performing the austerities that Prabhupada has already given us, so that you can do that better. Because we have these 4 regular principles. We have chanting 16 rounds. We have, attending the temple programs. So if you have some bad habit that's keeping you from doing this, and, if you're going to take a vrat, you have time to take a vrat that helps you do that better. Because they say, what's the point if you do this extra austerity, but then you just go back to doing the same thing again after Kartik? So Krishna consciousness here, it has to be performed. It's a daily activity. It's a daily practice if one wants to get the most out of it. And this is why you see in any religion, the people who perform it daily, they're the most fixed, and they become fearless at the end of life. Like I know even Christians that have this practice of reading the Bible every morning and praying every morning. I've seen at the end of life, they're able to more easily go through the transition of death. But the people who only go to church on Easter, they go to church on Christmas, they get a little bit more bewildered because you have to practice this every day. You have to work out your muscle. And it's not always easy because some days, you don't feel like chanting. And some days I'm very enthusiastic to chant. Some days it's like, oh my God, I got 8 rounds left and I still got all these things to do. And so sometimes we have to force ourselves. Sometimes it's very easy. But it's a daily activity. You're daily working out your spiritual muscle. Otherwise, when you don't work out a muscle, it atrophies. So I've seen this. One lady I know, she got cancer, but she's a very fixed up Christian. And at the end of her life, she said, I'm just ready to go back to God. She passed very easily. But I've seen other people. They find out they get some terminal illness. Oh my God, I'm about to die, even though they've been so-called religious. So the goal of life really is that we have to become fearless in the face of death. Life is temporary. Life is temporary. And I just got the news yesterday that one of my grandfathers passed away. And death is really not easy. You see in the movies, people say, like, they're in the hospital bed and they say their last words and then they just fade out. It doesn't happen like that in real life. Rarely ever does it happen like that. No, it's like with one of my grandfathers, it was yesterday, so they said he had been in bed since Friday. He hadn't eaten. He only drank a little bit of water, and whenever he woke up, he was in pain. And then he left yesterday. But he left it would have been a Codicy for them because it was a Codicy on that side yesterday, and he left during Kartik. So that's his benefits. And I'm always praying for my family, so hopefully, Krishna gives him a better position in his next life. But the point I'm trying to make is that death is not easy. It's not like what you see in the movies. It's not like, what they show in the West. It's actually difficult. So unless we really stay fixed up in this Krishna consciousness, we're not going to be able to let go. Because we're going to be thinking of I, me, and mine. Who's going to take care of my family? Who's going to manage this? Who's going to manage that? It's going to be very difficult. So the princess here, they're given this instruction by Lord Shiva so that they can keep the goal fixed in their mind. And so that's ultimately what the Bhagavatam does in all these stories. It's helping us keep the goal in our mind. Throughout life, we'll have so many different duties. But ultimately, what is the goal here? Don't lose the plot. It's like when you have a story, you have the main plot. So the main plot of our story is to become Krishna conscious. But if you're not careful, you can lose the plot. So Bhagavatam, through all these pastimes, really, it's to remind us of the plot. And that's ultimately what kind of the purpose here of the song of Lord Shiva is. And now, this is the last instruction. And there are going to be some verses glorifying this prayer and stuff. And then we'll reach the end of the chapter in text 79. So, Panchakapatrubhishtakri Pasindabev Chapatisanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Thank you guys for being here. Now, any questions or comments? Any thoughts?
Your grandpa has you.
I was hoping, they say if you take the Krishna consciousness, you liberate, your family members. So I'm always praying, Krishna, please help them because they're not going to take to it. Yes, Prabhu.
You look at it. Sorry, Maharaj told us. You were there, weren't you?
Which Maharaj?
Vajrayana Swami?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my God, that's so powerful. He chanted Krishna. And yeah, so nice. So yeah, all these people in Sedona that chanted Hare Krishna, that got books. You guys started their spiritual life.
Absolutely. We were doing, we had chanting all day. The devotee who used to chant all day was Krishnadas Babaji. Was Prabhupada's close friend. And when he got sick, they put a stethoscope to his heart. And all they heard was Maha Mantra.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was it. Krishna Swami. Yeah.
And then we were in Sedona, we chanted a lot of rounds. And it was like, really intense to do that.
Yeah.
I just think we only did like 8 hours of chanting. Or that's the quote we do.
All right. Well, I think they're bringing out breakfast. So in here, Bhagavatam, Srimad, Bhagavatam, Ki. Jai. Of course.